If you were ever asked what is the most famous trading indicator in the world, many of you would say that it is the RSI, but I am sure that most of you would answer that it is the MACD, because in recent years it has become an indispensable companion in any type of strategy. From discretionary traders to professional traders, the MACD can help us achieve better results in our trading. But of course, in recent years have emerged several types of MACD, even with the revolution of artificial intelligence have been created similar indicators but improved. In today's video we are going to show you which are the best MACD style indicators, how you can use them, and we will also show you one in particular that certainly beats them all. Welcome to the Trader's Game. And before we start, remember that in the description you have the links to join us in our Telegram community, where every day we post charts and analysis of what is happening in the financial markets. And also the trading bonus page, which has been updated and have added new promotions and free bonuses, for all those who are starting in the world of trading. Do not forget to leave your email if you want to receive a weekly newsletter with everything that has happened during those days. First of all, we go to the indicators part and choose the Convergence Divergence of the moving average, which is the basic one that brings us by default trading view. Here you have it, and as the vast majority of you know, we simply have to detect those areas that gives us further away from the average zone of zero value, and at that time, when we see that this distance is sufficient, we can interpret these crosses of the blue line on the orange line as the signal that the MACD gives us for a possible entry, in this case long. The price is falling, and in the MACD we also see it with this red histogram that shows us the same information, that the price has tended to continue to fall. When these exaggerated movements occur is when we expect the lines of the MACD signal away from the center area, and we must simply wait for that crossing. At that time we would take our long trade. The same thing would happen in this upper part, in this crossing, but this time downwards. In this case we would take the same operation but in short. Well, the first variation of the MACD that I want to show you is the MACD band's MultiTime Frame. Click on it and it will appear something like this. As you can see, it has a quite similar style, but if we go to the configuration part we can see how it gives us the option to choose also the type of moving average, whose data is exposing us the indicator, the different sources of closing, minimum, or opening, which can also offer us, and of course also the time intervals. But of course this MACD also offers us something special that could help us to detect those entries or exits much earlier than the default indicator, and is that if you notice we also have, in addition to the red and green bands, some wider ones of transparent bluish color, that are accompanying all these movements that move away more exaggeratedly from the central area. This happens because it is also capturing information from movements that occur in other times of the asset. So instead of waiting for these points that would be those entry signals in long down here, and short up here, we can advance our entries just to this area. When the red zone contact with this transparent blue wave occurs and the red just disappears, just at this moment if we mark it, you can see how this MACD advances the entry so that we could take the operation before the point of the signal that would give us the traditional MACD. In this case, if we superimpose both operations, the difference is not too much. We are talking about 0.32%, but imagine that this operation was with 8% of leverage, it would already be more than 3% difference, and in the event that we had a faster recovery from this area to the center, that the price did not take so long to rise, but we had a movement similar to this arrow, at that time the difference could become quite considerable, and you know that in trading everything adds up. Obviously the same would happen with the operation in short. We now move on to one of the most modern MACD style indicators that have been created. I'm talking about the so-called standardized MACD Heikin-Ashi transformed. As you can see, placing it already changes things quite a lot, even if only by its design. It also provides us with extra information such as these upper and lower bands, which can help us in a more visual way to know when the MACD is in areas more prone to reversal. We commented in the previous examples that we should always wait for the distance from the MACD lines to the middle zero zone was quite wide. But with this indicator we already have that information. We can even see how it is changing the trend of the movement by the colors of their candles. When it goes from red to blue we will always mark that little arrow of the trend change, just in those areas where this type of candlesticks Heikin-Ashi mark us an indecision and a subsequent change of trend. And of course if we compare this MACD with the previous ones we have seen, we can get to be much simpler, since we should only look for an entry when we mark those arrows, as it would mean that the price is in an optimal area for reversal. If it touches the lower zone is that we would be in a zone of extreme oversold, and in the upper extreme overbought. If we look for more examples you can see the effectiveness of this MACD, and as I say, without us having to be as attentive as the previous ones, since we only have to look at when we mark those arrows. Of course also add that the more at the extreme, both above and below the movement is, the more likely to succeed that change in trend and obviously your operation. I personally recommend not to take trades with a fixed stop loss and a lot of leverage with this indicator. But look at when the candles are reaching those areas of extreme overbought or oversold, and then start to draw a plan where we establish an area where we add operations, perhaps not looking for that fixed stop loss, because it could well continue to rise to mark a divergence, but perhaps take a first operation at that point, another a little higher if the price continues to rise, and then when we see that some kind of divergence is formed, put a third operation to average the set and wait for a fall. Still, this MACD is quite effective, it pretty much nails the trades, but I always like to give you some personal advice based on my experience. And finally, show you our holy grail, one of the indicators that I personally use and that undoubtedly has revolutionized the world of algorithmic trading. As you can see, it marks us directly in these blue-green waves when the money begins to enter more clearly in the asset to be sure of our operations, and just when that amount of money reaches an area, in this case of overbought, is when we should start to worry that the trend could change at any time. Every time that wave reaches that red zone of overbought, it warns us with these red dots. However you will think, but there are more signals. It is indicating us more things. Indeed, this indicator has more than 37 internal variables of which it gathers the data and informs us. Another of them is this transparent red bar, which again indicates that there is a great bearish pressure in this area. On the other hand, also the white line that was rising here also reaches its zone of extreme overbought and marks a phosphorus red area. This indicates that at the time that softens and re-enters the area of the usual range, more or less at this point, this change of trend will have a higher percentage of success. It also marks another little red arrow, which is a different variable, and as you can see, after all these warnings, the price plummets. Of course, we already knew practically from this area that this would be the equivalent, that there were many probabilities that the trend would change, so we should only be attentive, and when we return to the usual range, we would confirm the beginning of this new downtrend and we would take the operation. This indicator is perfect for catching tops or bottoms, as in this case, of moves that are going to change the trend soon. As you are seeing, again, we have that green phosphorite zone followed by the entry of this red wave in the extreme oversold zone, and again a mark, in this case transparent green, which means that we have many different variables that indicate that this area here is ideal to enter long, as the trend is very likely to change. We take our operation, and as you see, again, we get a great profit. Even if we let it run, having so much strength in all these signals, we could continue to take absolutely all the rise until today, an absolute madness, as we would have a 4-day operation in which we only need to study this data here, of course, and all this in the temporality of 15 minutes. Imagine what will help you in 5, in an hour, or even in higher temporalities. Finally, if you like our work, please leave us a nice like, it's free, and again, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video of the Trader's Game.